Have you ever heard about the spiritual meaning of the number 888? For many, this is not just an ordinary number. It is a symbol of luck, prosperity, and balance. It is believed that 888 is an angelic number, a gateway that connects human consciousness to the sacred energy of the universe. Some even claim that if you write the number 888 on a piece of paper and place it under your pillow, you can transform your life, attracting wealth, peace, and enlightenment. But is this just a blind belief? Or is there a deeper spiritual truth hidden within? Stay with us until the end of this video, because you will not only uncover the mystical origins of 888, but also learn how to apply its energy in your daily life to create real, positive change. If you haven't already, subscribe to Buddhist Echoes, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new videos on your spiritual journey. Master Kaito's words settled into the night like ripples in a still pond. The disciples sat motionless, their breaths quiet, their eyes reflecting both the flickering firelight and the growing intrigue in their hearts. The monastery, nestled deep within the mountains, had witnessed countless nights of teachings, but tonight felt different. Something unseen yet profoundly present seemed to stir within the air itself. The number 888 is not just a number, Kaito continued, his voice smooth and steady, carrying the weight of an ancient truth. It is a vibration, a resonance that moves in harmony with the rhythm of the universe. It represents balance, eternity, and the endless potential that lies within all things. When you attune yourself to its energy, you cease to live passively. Life no longer unfolds as a series of random events, but instead reveals itself as a tapestry woven with intention, synchronicity, and purpose. The disciples listened with reverence, yet the complexity of the idea left a lingering question unspoken. How could three identical digits hold such a profound significance? Kaito sensed their hesitation, his eyes gleaming with understanding. Imagine the number 8, he said, tracing the symbol in the air with his fingers. See how it loops infinitely, never beginning nor ending, an eternal flow of energy. When this number repeats 3 times, 888, it creates a sacred triad. The mind, the body, and the soul, the past, the present, and the future, the earth, the heavens, and the self. A gentle hush settled over the group. The fire crackled, sending embers spiraling into the cold mountain air. Kaito's words felt less like an explanation and more like a revelation. A person who embodies the essence of 888, he continued, understands the delicate balance between material wealth and spiritual fulfillment. They do not chase riches with desperation, nor do they reject them out of fear of attachment. Instead, they allow prosperity to flow through them like a river, unhindered, generous, and ever-renewing. One of the disciples, a former merchant who had abandoned a life of business to seek peace in the monastery, lowered his gaze. He had once believed wealth would bring happiness, but the more he acquired, the emptier he felt. When he renounced his fortune, however, he found himself equally restless. The realization struck him with sudden clarity. It was never about having or not having. It was about how one wielded prosperity, how one shared it, how one aligned it with purpose. He nodded, absorbing the lesson. Master Kaito then moved his hands over a small wooden table where a single sheet of white parchment lay. With precise, deliberate strokes, he traced the number 888 using golden ink. The ink shimmered under the firelight, as though alive with its own energy. If you wish to align yourself with the power of 888, he said, you must do so with intention. Writing the number is a ritual, a moment where you declare your openness to the flow of abundance, wisdom, and balance. The disciples watched as he demonstrated the sacred practice. First, he instructed them to write the number 888 on a piece of paper using gold or red ink, gold symbolizing divine energy, red embodying vitality and life force. Then, he held the paper between his palms, closing his eyes as he whispered a quiet invocation. Hold the paper, he murmured, quote, and in your heart, speak of what you wish to invite into your life. Not from a place of greed or longing, but from a place of trust. Speak of prosperity, but not only in the form of wealth. Speak of clarity, of health, of love, of wisdom. Declare that you are open to receiving, and that in receiving, you will also give. He placed the paper beneath his pillow, his voice softening. As you sleep, your mind is at its most receptive. In this state, the energy of 888 seeps into your consciousness, awakening you to opportunities and insights that have always been there, though unseen. One of the elder disciples, a man who had spent years meditating, but still struggled with financial hardship, hesitated before speaking. "Master," he said cautiously, "how does writing a number bring change? Isn't it simply ink on paper?" Kaito smiled. "Symbols, my dear student, are the language of the subconscious. They remind us of what we already know but have forgotten. The moment you engage in this practice, your awareness shifts. You begin to recognize possibilities where you once saw limitations. You act upon your intuition rather than ignore it. Most importantly, you cultivate gratitude and generosity, two forces that amplify abundance in ways beyond measure." The disciple remained quiet, considering his words. Kaito leaned forward, his voice low but strong. "Let me tell you a story. There once was a merchant named Haru, whose wealth had once been abundant. Yet fear gripped him. He feared losing his fortune, feared making the wrong decisions, feared that no matter how much he acquired, it would never be enough. This fear, rather than the lack of money, was what truly impoverished him. His mind was chained by scarcity. One day, a traveling monk crossed Haru's path and noticed his distress. The monk did not offer gold nor business advice, but instead handed him a simple wooden tablet. Upon it, the number 888 was carefully carved. The monk instructed him to place it in his study, and every day, to gaze upon it, breathe deeply, and remind himself that abundance was not something to chase, it was something to recognize. Haru did as he was told, and over time, something remarkable happened. His perspective began to shift. Where he once saw risks, he now saw opportunities. Where he once hoarded, he now shared. His fear dissolved, and in its place, a quiet confidence took root. With that confidence came prosperity. But not just in coin, in relationships, in health, in wisdom. Kaito looked at his disciple with gentle eyes. The number 888 did not change Haru's fate. It changed his perception, and with perception comes power. A woman named May, who had been silent throughout the discussion, clutched a folded piece of paper in her hands. Her fingers trembled slightly, her eyes damp with emotion. Kaito turned to her, his expression kind. "May, what troubles you?" Her voice wavered as she spoke. "Master, I understand how 888 can bring prosperity. But can it bring healing? I carry wounds that wealth cannot mend." A deep hush fell over the group. Many of them knew this pain, the weight of regrets, the scars of loss, the burden of past mistakes. "Yes, May," Kaito said gently. 888 is not just a number of material abundance. It is a number of renewal, of infinite cycles. Just as it represents prosperity and wealth, it represents abundance in love, in forgiveness, in second chances. If you have been wounded, visualize 888 as a golden thread binding together the broken pieces of your heart. Not to erase the cracks, but to make you stronger because of them. He then led them in a meditation. He instructed them to close their eyes and visualize 888 glowing above them, golden and luminous. As they inhaled, they imagined this golden light cascading over them, dissolving pain, washing away resentment, soothing old wounds. As they exhaled, they released their burdens into the vast embrace of the universe. When May opened her eyes, a transformation had taken place. Her tears were no longer of sorrow, but of release. Kaito looked around at his disciples. Their faces softened with understanding. 888 is not about wealth alone, he said. It is about wholeness. It is a reminder that life flows in cycles, that everything lost is found again. That balance is always within reach if we choose to embrace it. He urged them to use 888 not as a superstition, but as a philosophy. If they sought prosperity, they must cultivate generosity. If they sought clarity, they must silence doubt. If they sought healing, they must trust in renewal. As the disciples bowed in gratitude, the fire crackled softly, as if whispering its approval. They now carried the wisdom of 888, not as ink on paper, but as a truth woven into the very fabric of their being. Master Kaito's voice carried the weight of ancient wisdom, flowing through the dimly lit monastery like a gentle stream nourishing the roots of an old tree. The disciples sat in rapt silence, absorbing every word, every lesson, every whisper of the universe hidden within the teachings of their master. Tonight, they would not only learn about the sacred number 888, but also how to invite its energy into their lives. The power of 888 is not merely in its form. Kaito spoke, his voice a soothing balm against the cool night air. It is in your intention, your belief, and your alignment with the flow of the universe. Without intention, numbers are just symbols, but when you engage with them with an open heart and a focused mind, they become conduits of transformation. The disciples leaned in, eager to receive this sacred knowledge. Kaito lifted a small parchment, its edges crisp and untouched. With a brush dipped in golden ink, he carefully traced the numbers 888, each stroke deliberate and fluid. As the golden ink shimmered under the firelight, a hush of reverence settled over the gathering. Write 888 on a blank sheet of paper. He instructed, use gold or red ink, for gold is the essence of divine energy, and red carries the fire of life force. This act is not simply about writing a number, it is about setting an intention. As you trace the curves of each 8, feel its infinite nature, its unbroken cycle of giving and receiving, of balance and harmony. Let your heart be still, and as you write, let gratitude fill your being. One of the younger disciples hesitated before speaking. Master, what should we think about as we write the number? Should we ask for wealth? For happiness? For health? Kaito smiled, the lines on his face deepening with wisdom. Do not beg from the universe as if you lack. Instead, affirm your abundance. Speak as though the river of prosperity already flows within you. Instead of saying, I wish for success, say, success flows effortlessly to me. Instead of saying, I long for peace, say, I am at peace with all that is, and all that will be. Remember, the universe mirrors your beliefs. If you believe you are lacking, you will see lack. If you believe you are abundant, abundance will reveal itself. A stillness spread across the room as each disciple absorbed these words. Then Kaito continued, once you have written the number, place the paper beneath your pillow. As you rest, your conscious mind will sleep, but your subconscious mind will awaken. In this state, you are most receptive to the subtle energies that guide the flow of life. The frequency of 888 will weave into your dreams, dissolving the blocks of doubt and fear, replacing them with clarity, intuition, and trust. One of the elder disciples, who had spent decades in search of prosperity, but never seemed to grasp it, looked up with hesitation. Master, will this practice bring wealth? Will it truly change one's fortune? Kaito regarded him with kindness. Wealth is not something to be summoned, it is something to be aligned with. When you carry the energy of abundance, opportunities reveal themselves, people of influence are drawn to you, and prosperity becomes effortless. But remember, wealth is not only gold coins and possessions, it is health, it is love, it is peace of mind. If you measure wealth only in what you can hold, you will always feel empty. But if you measure wealth in the joy you cultivate, you will never know lack. The disciples nodded, their understanding deepening. That night, each one of them took their parchment, inscribed with 888, and placed it beneath their pillow. As they drifted into sleep, a strange sensation filled the monastery, a presence, a quiet hum of energy shifting around them. And in their dreams, visions unfolded. Some saw themselves standing at the gates of golden temples. Others saw themselves surrounded by endless fields of blooming lotus flowers. One awoke in the middle of the night, feeling as though a heavy burden had been lifted from his soul. When morning arrived, a renewed sense of energy filled them. But the lesson was far from over. Kaito stood before them once more, his voice as steady as the mountains surrounding them. 888 does not only exist within you, it must also exist around you. The spaces in which you live, work, and rest hold energy, and if they are not aligned with balance, abundance cannot flow freely. He gestured toward the monastery doors, beyond which the vast landscape stretched into the horizon. In Eastern traditions, the number 8 is a sacred emblem of prosperity, infinite expansion, and limitless growth. It is no coincidence that 888 magnifies this energy threefold. When placed within your surroundings with intention, it amplifies the flow of fortune and harmony. A few disciples exchanged glances. intrigued by the idea that their external environment could impact their spiritual and material well-being. If you seek progress in your career, place the number 888 in your workspace. Kaito explained, write it on a small piece of parchment and tuck it inside your desk drawer, or frame it and set it upon your shelf. Let it serve as a quiet reminder that opportunities are always within reach. But do not merely place it there and forget it. Each day, as you see it, let it stir within you the energy of purpose and focus. Action must accompany intention. He turned toward the monastery entrance, running his hand gently along the wooden doors. For those who seek abundance in the home, inscribe 888 above your doorway. The entrance of your dwelling is where energy enters and exits. It is the threshold between the external world and your sacred space. When you bless this threshold with the number 888, you welcome prosperity, balance, and protection into your home. A disciple raised her hand, her voice soft but eager. Master, what if one carries fear? What if abundance seems too far away to even believe in? Kaito's expression was warm, his voice gentle. Then begin where you are. If you cannot yet see abundance around you, begin by feeling gratitude for what you do have. A roof over your head, the breath in your lungs, the kindness of a stranger. Gratitude is the soil in which abundance grows. And as you cultivate it, you will find that life offers more and more for you to be grateful for. Then, he moved to the stone altar at the center of the room, where several crystals were laid out. Numbers, words, and symbols carry power, but so do the elements of the earth. Crystals, like numbers, hold frequencies that can align with our own. If you wish to amplify the energy of 888, you may pair it with certain stones. He lifted a violet-hued stone, its surface glowing softly in the morning light. This is amethyst. It carries the wisdom of the cosmos, the energy of deep intuition. It allows the mind to expand beyond limitations, to connect with the divine. If you seek clarity, if you wish to awaken your spiritual insight, place amethyst near your written 888. Next, he held up a golden yellow stone, shimmering like captured sunlight. Citrine. This stone embodies prosperity, joy, and success. It does not simply attract wealth, it shifts your mindset into one of abundance, of confidence, of knowing you are worthy. If financial prosperity is your desire, keep citrine close to your written 888. Lastly, he lifted a stone of deep golden brown, its iridescent bands catching the light. Tiger's eye, the stone of courage, strength, and unwavering will. If fear has held you back, if doubt has clouded your path, Tiger's eye will remind you of your resilience. If you feel uncertain, if your steps feel unsteady, let this stone ground you as you move toward abundance. The disciples watched, mesmerized, their hearts stirred by both the simplicity and the depth of Kaito's words. Numbers, symbols, crystals, rituals. These are not magic. They are tools to help us align with the reality we wish to create. But remember, no tool is greater than the mind that wields it. No number, no stone, no symbol will change your life unless you first believe, unless you first act. A breeze swept through the open monastery doors, carrying with it the scent of earth and new beginnings. The disciples understood now, 888 was not just a number to be written. It was a frequency to be lived. And with this knowledge, they stepped forward, ready to embrace the boundless possibilities awaiting them. As the fire in the monastery courtyard burned low, its embers glowing softly against the night, the disciples sat in quiet contemplation. They had walked through the journey of understanding 888, not as mere numbers inked on parchment, but as an invitation to shift their consciousness, to embrace a life of balance, awareness, and abundance. Master Kaito observed their expressions, each one carrying a different realization. Some were filled with certainty, others still deep in thought, but all had felt the presence of something greater, a wisdom that had always existed within them, waiting to be awakened. My dear students, Master Kaito spoke, his voice as steady as the mountains surrounding them. You now understand that 888 is not a magic charm. It does not grant wishes like a mystical relic. Instead, it is a symbol, one that reminds you of what has always been inside you. Prosperity, balance, and enlightenment are not things to be acquired. They are states of being that you cultivate, nourish, and embody. The number 888 does not give you wealth, clarity, or peace. It reveals the pathways that have been before you all along, and gives you the awareness to walk them. A gentle breeze swept through the courtyard, carrying with it the scent of earth and distant rain. The disciples let these words settle in their hearts. For days, they had practiced the ritual, meditated upon the number, and reflected on their deepest desires. Some had dreamt vividly, others had woken with newfound clarity. And yet, all of them had experienced something, an undeniable shift in their perception of life. One of the elder disciples, a man who had spent years chasing success, but had found himself hollow despite his achievements, spoke with quiet reverence. "Master, I once believed that wealth was measured in gold, in land, in the number of possessions one could claim. But after these days of reflection, I see that true wealth is in the peace of one's mind, in the kindness one extends, in the wisdom one carries. It is in the way we move through life, not in what we hold in our hands." Master Kaito nodded. That is the first great truth of 888. True wealth is not in material possessions but in wisdom, kindness, and self-awareness. A person who understands this will never feel lacking, no matter their circumstances, for they recognize that abundance is not something external, it is something internal. A mind that is open, a heart that is giving, and a spirit that is at peace are greater riches than any treasure the world can offer. A younger disciple, filled with both excitement and apprehension, spoke next. "Master, I now understand that 888 is not a promise, it is a path. It is a guide, not a guarantee. If I do not take action, if I do not align my thoughts and my deeds with the lessons I have learned, then no number, no ritual, no symbol will change my life." Master Kaito smiled, a glint of approval in his eyes. "You speak wisely. The universe is not a place of randomness. It responds to energy, to intention, to action. The number 888 serves as a beacon, reminding you to align with the frequency of prosperity and balance. But it is your choices, your discipline, and your unwavering faith in yourself that bring transformation. The greatest mistake one can make is to believe that success, happiness, and peace will come without effort. The river flows, but you must be willing to step into its waters." Another disciple, a woman who had struggled with fear and self-doubt, hesitated before speaking. "Master, I understand that 888 teaches us to trust in the flow of life. But what if fear still lingers? What if doubt clouds our vision?" Kaito turned to her, his gaze filled with compassion. "Fear is a shadow, but it is only as strong as the power you give it. Doubt is a veil, but it is only as thick as your willingness to believe in it." 888 reminds you of something essential, that doors will open where you never imagined, but only if you trust yourself enough to walk through them. Trust does not mean you will never feel afraid. It means you will not let fear decide your path. The moment you choose to believe in the possibilities before you, rather than the obstacles in your way, you will see the world differently. And in seeing differently, you will begin to live differently. A quiet murmur spread through the disciples. They had each, in their own way, carried fears, fear of failure, fear of not being enough, fear of losing what they held dear. But now, something had shifted. The fear still existed, but it no longer controlled them. They had learned that trust was not something one found. It was something one chose. Again, and again, with every step forward. As the discussion deepened, another question arose, one that carried a quiet urgency. "Master, how do we take what we have learned and apply it to the lives we return to? The monastery is a place of peace, of clarity. But the world beyond these walls is filled with distractions, burdens, and noise. How do we keep the lessons of 888 alive in the midst of our daily lives?" Master Kaito took a deep breath, as though pulling wisdom from the very air around him. 888 is not meant to be confined to a single ritual or a single moment of awareness. It is a practice, a way of thinking, a way of being. There are many ways to integrate its energy into your daily life. He turned toward the disciples who had once worked in bustling cities and towns, those who had lived among the demands of commerce, deadlines, and expectations. If you are returning to the world of business and labor, let 888 remind you that success is not about accumulation but about flow. Each morning, before you begin your work, pause for a moment, Write 888 on a small piece of paper or keep a symbol of it near your desk. Let it remind you that prosperity comes not from grasping but from giving. From aligning your work with purpose rather than mere profit. Approach each task with a sense of contribution rather than competition, and you will find that opportunities arrive naturally, effortlessly. He then turned to those who had spoken of their families, of their responsibilities as parents, spouses, or caregivers. If you are returning to a home filled with loved ones, let 888 remind you that abundance is not only financial but emotional. Each night, as you close your eyes, reflect on the abundance of love in your life. Do not focus on what is missing, focus on what is present. When you interact with your family, do so with generosity of spirit, with patience, with kindness. The more you give without expectation, the more you will receive in ways you never anticipated. To those who had dedicated their lives to meditation and self-discovery, he spoke with quiet reverence. If you walk the path of solitude and contemplation, let 888 remind you that enlightenment is not about detachment, but about presence. In each breath you take, in each step you walk, let there be gratitude. Use 888 in your meditative practice, visualize it. Chant it, write it before you begin your sitting practice. Let it be a symbol not of something external to attain, but of the infinite wisdom that already exists within you. The disciples sat in deep reflection, understanding that 888 was not something to be left behind in the monastery, but something to be carried into every aspect of their lives. Whether in their work, their families, or their personal practice, it would serve as a reminder to live with intention, with awareness, with trust. Master Kaito's eyes swept over the gathering one last time. He saw before him not mere students, but individuals who had begun to awaken to their own power. The lesson was not about a number. It was about knowing that abundance, balance, and wisdom were already theirs, if only they chose to claim them. As he dismissed them back to their journeys, he left them with a final blessing. You do not need to seek outside of yourself for the keys to happiness. They are already in your hands. Walk forward with the knowledge that you are already whole, already abundant, already enough. The disciples bowed deeply, carrying the wisdom of 888 not as a superstition, not as a hope, but as a way of life. And as they stepped beyond the monastery walls, the world itself seemed to shift before them, because they had changed, and in changing, they had transformed the path ahead. As the journey through the meaning of 888 comes to an end, we are left with something far greater than just a number. We are left with a reminder, a powerful message that prosperity, balance, and enlightenment are not things to be found outside of us, but states of being we cultivate within ourselves. The story of 888 is not about luck or superstition. It is about awareness. It teaches us that abundance flows where our thoughts, actions, and intentions align. It reminds us that wealth is not only measured in money, but in wisdom, kindness, and the peace of knowing that we are enough. When we shift our mindset from fear to trust, from scarcity to gratitude, we begin to see opportunities where we once saw obstacles. Master Kaito's teachings show us that life itself is a reflection of our energy. If we live in fear, doubt, and hesitation, the world mirrors that back to us. But when we choose to embrace faith, to act with confidence, and to walk forward even when the path is unclear, the universe responds in kind. Doors open, paths reveal themselves, miracles unfold. 888 is not just a number, it is a philosophy. A call to live with purpose, gratitude, and an open heart. Whether in our careers, our families, or our spiritual journey, we can carry its energy with us, using it as a beacon of trust and transformation. And now, we invite you to take this wisdom forward. Write down 888, place it under your pillow, and see how your awareness begins to shift. More importantly, begin to live with the abundance mindset, to give, to trust, and to embrace the limitless possibilities within and around you. If you found this message meaningful, support our journey by subscribing to Buddhist Echoes. Your support allows us to continue bringing you powerful insights and life-changing spiritual wisdom. Together, let's build a world where knowledge and enlightenment flow freely. Subscribe now, and let's walk this path together.